So the idea of Malena is to have multiple layouts that we can use to make creating layouts in Malena very simple. Right now we only have one, but there's more planned in the future. So what I'm going to show you is how we can do a grid layout. And so basically what I want to do is just create a grid of boxes that we can click on and we can do stuff with. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new variable inside of my Malena app, and that's going to be a vector of rectangles. And here I'll just call it boxes. So of course I'm going to need to include vector. All right, and so now I have my boxes. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and initialize this variable. So I'm going to go to my initialization area and I'm going to go ahead and allow it to lay out in a grid layout. So let's go to our CPP file. We can set up our vector of boxes in numerous places. I personally like to just do it here in the initialization area. So here I'm going to go ahead and call the vectors overloaded constructor that allows us to say how many boxes we want and a default value for the boxes. So in this case, let's do 132 boxes, and then we're gonna do. I'm gonna give it just the rectangles default constructor as our default value. So basically, it's just 132 boxes all set up to their default values. But that's okay because I'm gonna go and modify these boxes inside of my initialization area. Because remember, this is where we actually want to make all of our changes. So here I'm gonna add a loop where I will go and loop through and get these boxes set up. But while I'm doing that, I'm also going to add it to a grid layout so that these boxes will be arranged in a grid. So first thing I'm going to do is create a ML grid object. And with our grid object, we actually can say how many rows and columns we want. So in this case, I'm going to do 11 rows, 12 columns. And I'm going to make sure we just include Malena. And I'm sorry, it does take that as a vector. So we're going to put our size as a vector. And now I can start adding these boxes to the grid. So I'm going to go ahead and create a for loop. So I'm going to use our auto reference box and boxes. I'm going to go ahead and get my box set up. So we're going to make these boxes 25 by 25. So box dot set size 25 by 25. You know, maybe we want to give the box some random colors. I can give the box some random colors. Let's just randomly create a color. So I'm gonna just use the really terrible random generator because it doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna use sran here. And then I'm gonna create this color C And I'm just going to pass it some random numbers between 0 and 255. So we're going to do ran mod 256. And I'm just going to do that 3 times. Oh, that wasn't correct. Copy, paste, paste. All right, and so there we go. Now we have a random color. And then I'm going to go ahead and just set my box fill color to that random color. Good, so now I have my box set up. And now what I want to do is I want it to be part of this 11 by 12 grid. So I'm just going to basically say grid.add component. And then I'm going to pass in box. Right, and then I want my SFML, I want my application to actually draw all these boxes. So inside of this loop, I'm also going to add my box to my application. All right, and so now my grid has been added. I'm going to actually move my reset button a little bit down because I don't want it to cover my grid. So I'm going to just pick a random place to place it. So set position. Let's just do 200. Let's do 0, 200. Right, and so now if I run my code, well, we'll see. I actually put it in a random spot. It seems like it actually overlapped, but as you can see, I have a 12 by 12 grid. And as you can see, there's spaces in between them. And that's because by default, the grid will add 10 pixels spacing. If you don't want that, then we can go to our grid and we can set how much space we want between each box. So the way we do that is we will go to our grid and then we'll just call our set spacing function. All right, and let's see what it'll look like if I set no spacing. If I set no spacing, then we'll see that we have a grid where all the boxes are just together. All right, and so now maybe we want something to happen when we click on these boxes. All right, maybe we want something to happen when we click on these boxes. So we can actually add lambda functions inside of this loop so that we have a lambda function for each box. So what I would like to do is I would like to create an integer number and I'm going to start it equal to 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give each of these boxes I want to basically say when I click on this box, output its number. Right, so inside of this loop, I'm going to put a num++. But before I do anything, what I want to do is now add a box event handler. And so this time I'm saying when I click on it, so I'm going to use the unclick. When I click on it, I can't forget to capture this. When I click on it, I want it to, I'm just going to basically have it output to the console this particular number. This is actually something I think is kind of cool. So that means that I actually not only want to capture this, but I want to capture this num variable as well. So I'm going to pass in num. And now in this case, I'm just going to say std cout num, and then let's do a new line. All right, and so I know this is very simple, but I'll run the code and we'll see that when I click the first button, it outputs 1. If I click the second one, it outputs 2, 3, 4, right? If I do the comma, this one down here, 132, right? So that's actually kind of cool. We are able to add different event handlers for each of the buttons. Cool. So in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how we can start using our manifest system and how we can use textures.